Hey everybody, I'm JJ Johnson. You're watching Reality Survival. So today I was just out here at the truck doing an oil change, and I thought I'd go ahead and install this EMP shield. So all I've really done is taken two screws. I found a place to mount it, and I took two number 12 by 3/4 inch sheet metal screws or lag screws. I don't know what you call them. They're a hex washer slotted metal screw. And just mounted it right here. And then I drilled a hole in the side of this battery compartment to get my wire harness through. And then we're ready to hook it up. That's how easy these things are to put on. So let's just, for those people who don't know what an EMP is and why it's something to take into consideration for your preps, then I'll just talk a little bit about that. I'm not going to go real in depth though, because if you go to my website, AmericanPreppingAcademy.com, go to the topics page and then go to EMPs. I've got several videos that goes into a whole lot of stuff about what is an electromagnetic pulse or an EMP, how can it affect electronics, and all those kinds of things. The different kinds of EMPs, the 3 different pulses that it has. You know, we really go into a lot of depth on all those videos. So if you want to know more about it, check this out. As far as the likelihood of a threat from an EMP, I have always said that I believe that the likelihood is pretty low. And I still stand by that. Although more and more countries are developing the technology to be able to do it, I still think that it's probably pretty low. If you are a new prepper who's just getting into prepping, I don't think that you need to worry about doing this. I really don't. I think you need to worry about getting your food taken care of, your water taken care of, your basic first aid, your self-defense, your power generation, you know, all those kinds of things, your bug out bags, plans, you know, all that kind of stuff. Once you've got all your bases covered, this is kind of more of an advanced thing that you could do if you've got all that stuff squared away. I want to say these run about $350-ish or somewhere around in there, $350 or so, and it's a very easy item to add to your vehicle that can give you a little bit of peace of mind to help with your vehicle running, to maintain it so it'll still run if there was an EMP. Now the congressional report on EMPs, they did a big study on this several years back. There's been a couple of them actually. And if I remember correctly, that report is posted on my website, so you could take a look at that. But if I remember correctly, it said something like 60 to 70% of the vehicles on the road would probably be affected in some way or another that would interrupt their driving. Now some of those you might be able to just shut them off, disconnect the battery, reconnect the battery, and re-go. Some vehicles it might not affect at all. Other vehicles it may partially affect, where some stuff works and other stuff don't. There's really just a myriad of potential options for this because there's a lot of different factors that go into it. Some people think that if an EMP happens, all electronics are going to die, boom, and that's that. That's not true, okay? Some electronics, if they're smaller, will probably continue to work. Other electronics, you know, because part of what it has to do with is, without getting too complicated into this, is the size of the object and the amount of energy that it absorbs when the 3 different pulses come through. And then how well shielded they are, where they are geographically from where the EMP went off, where they are, if they're, you know, where they're at, if there's any natural shielding and those kinds of things. There's tons of different factors that will affect how much of the energy pulse your vehicle absorbs, okay? So we can't really affect all those variables, but what we can say is if the vehicle does get hit by an electromagnetic pulse, do I want to have something in place to at least give me a better shot of getting it home and to being able to get to my family and then still have the vehicle run afterwards so that I can do whatever I need to do. If I live in the city, it's going to be probably really important after an EMP that you get out of that big city. If you're already in a rural area, maybe you're not going to need a vehicle as much except just to get home. You know, if you live a long distance, then that's going to be very helpful to you because it won't take you 2 weeks to walk back to your house or whatever it would be, depending on how far you are from home when it happens, right? So this is not the end all be all, and it's not something that beginning people should do that if you're just starting out in prepping, but it's something that helps increase the likelihood that your vehicle will run after an EMP. So we'll just stop with that, and let me explain a little bit about how this works, okay? You've got 3 wires on here. You've got this wire which goes to it's a ground to your chassis, and so I've hooked it up. That's a green wire. Then you have a black wire that goes to the negative battery terminal, and then you have a red wire with a fuse in it, and the red wire goes to the positive battery terminal. Now what this does is this monitors the voltage in the system, in the vehicle system. And if it detects a spike in the voltage in less than 1 nanosecond, it will start to drain off that voltage, that additional energy in the system, and put it back to the chassis so that it can be reabsorbed. All right. Now some people will say, oh, well, if it's not grounded into the earth, it's not going to work. You don't understand the way electrical energy works. Your car runs on electricity, and it has a ground, and it uses the chassis as a ground. And that's because there is enough electrons within that chassis to be able to absorb that energy and allow it to function correctly, okay? So with a vehicle, like I said, it's a fairly large object, and so you're going to have a little bit more energy consumption than some smaller devices. Like a lot of people are worried about red dots and flashlights and stuff like that. And it's a legitimate concern because it's possible that some of them could be affected depending on where they are and all that kind of stuff. But it's unlikely. A lot of the smaller stuff like handheld radios, flashlights, red dots, those kinds of things are probably not going to be affected. But a bigger object, you need something to assist you in draining off that energy, because the larger the skin is on this object, the more energy that it absorbs, okay? The smaller the object is and the smaller the skin is, the less energy absorbed. So it's proportional. So the EMP shield basically gives you a little bit of an advantage because it can bleed off that additional energy in your system before it builds up too much heat and causes the electronics to fry. See, it's not just the amount of voltage that fries it. It's that the voltage stays there long enough and builds up enough heat to then fry the electronics. So if you can drain off that energy as it's being built and then quickly afterwards, so maybe up to a half a second or something, whatever it is, a few nanoseconds or something, then you can keep the sensitive components inside the vehicle from being damaged. That's the way that this thing works, is it monitors it, and within under a nanosecond, it bleeds off the energy when it detects a spike. So that's why I'm putting it on my vehicle. Here's the thing with the EMP shield. I would not trust it unless I had seen the third-party result, lab results from Keystone Compliance Labs. Keystone Compliance, they are a laboratory that does a lot of testing for DoD, and they have tested the EMP shield to the mil-spec standards, and it works. And it works actually repeated multiple times through the tests. So I believe that Keystone Compliance is not going to risk its reputation on saying that something will work if it doesn't work, because that would be pretty catastrophic to their business reputation. DoD and people like that would stop using them, and they're not going to risk those big contracts. So that's why I believe that these things work. I don't know. I'm not an electrician. One, the unit's sealed up, but two, I'm not an electrician to be able to look at it and say, I know what this does or that does, and to be able to figure it out. I'm just going off of the third-party testing that is putting their credibility out there to say that it does work. I also happen to know that the government is using a lot of these as well. So they're not going to put that stuff on there if they didn't think that there was, you know, some viability to it. So for about $380, I figure it's worth the investment to go ahead and put it on here. Now, as you guys know, if you've seen the channel before, then you know that I'm an affiliate with them. I've had the creator on the channel. That video is on my website. You can listen to him explain how all this stuff works. And so if you decide that you want to buy one, if you're in a place where you've already covered your baseline preps and you want to get some more advanced stuff done, then you can use the link in the description below or the discount code Reality Survival, and you can save $50 per item that you purchase. Now they have them for vehicles, they have them for houses, they've got them for solar panels, they've got them for generators, they've got them for all different kinds of stuff depending on what your needs are. So, you know, you can give them a call and they can help you work out a custom solution if you need to. You know, they've got lots of different options, but the discount will get you $50 off per unit. So that's a pretty good savings. So with that, I'm gonna go ahead and finish hooking this up. And the one thing that I will tell you, excuse me, is this is a constant on system. Hang on. COVID. This is a constant on system. So if you don't drive your vehicle, you know, at least once every couple of weeks, then you might not want to put one of these on. Or if you do, just if you know the vehicle is going to be parked for a longer period of time, take the fuse out right here. This is a fuse. It's just a little 20 amp fuse. You can just, all you got to do is just twist it and then pull it out, and then that will shut the system down and it won't drain your battery. If you're driving your vehicle on a regular or even semi-regular basis, you're not going to have a problem because it's a low draw. You know, you're not gonna drain your battery out. I would imagine it's going to take at least a couple of weeks. But that is just one thing to consider because it is always on, and if the car sits for a long time, then it could cause your battery to be drained. So something to think about, or go ahead and put a battery jumper in there, you know, with your with your vehicle, and it won't drain it down real low because once it hits the voltage where it stops operating, then it shuts off. So it's not going to, like, you know, totally kill your battery. It just could drain it off. So something to consider about these things. They're super easy to install. You can install them on any vehicle. All you got to do is find a place to mount it. It's got 4 mounting holes, top and bottom. I just did the top 2 because it's plenty stable. It's not going to go anywhere here. I routed the cable. I took a little bit of this automotive wire shielding. I think it's 1/2 inch. I put it on there, routed it up into place, hooked the first one to the chassis. That's the green wire. Then I took some zip ties and zip tied around each wire where it's at so it doesn't come out of the shielding. Then I moved up a little bit more, did the same thing with the black wire. And I also, the wires come a little long from the factory, but I went ahead and I had a little ring terminal just like this, and so I cut the green and black wires off to the right length, but I left the red wire the full length because it has that fuse in there, that inline fuse in there. Now you could put another one in if you wanted to shorten it. I would suggest to EMP Shield, if you guys watch this, put the inline fuse perhaps a little closer or something like that. Maybe, I don't know. I mean, it's not a big deal to coil it up and just leave it here. You know, then it's easy to access if you're gonna park your vehicle for a long time. So that's pretty much that. And the reason that it's a constant on system, that's actually important that they do that, and it makes a lot of sense. Because if your vehicle's shut off and not running and an EMP hits, it'll still be affected. that energy from that E1 pulse will still move through the electronics. You need this to be constantly monitoring it because you don't drive your vehicle all the time, right? So it needs to be constantly monitoring it to be able to drain that energy off to the chassis. So just, you know, something to think about with that. So let me go ahead and hook this bad boy up. If you guys haven't tried these ratchets from Icon at Harbor Freight, you're missing out. These little ratchets here, and it's got the swivel head on it. Dude, these are really awesome ratchets. I like it a lot. So I'm just gonna go ahead and put this one down here. Okay, that's good. I'm gonna do this one. And then it should, I don't know if you can see it or not, this LED light is off right now. And when I hook this on, it should come on. So we'll see. Come on. Yep. Come on. Yay. There we go. So it's done. Very, very easy installation. Again, if you've got your stuff squared away, if you've got your basic preps covered, then this might be something to consider. I don't really think it's a huge likelihood that we'll have an EMP, but with all the stuff that's going on with China and all that, who knows? I don't know. I'm not a prophet. I can't tell the future. So I just figure it can't hurt. My son's truck's got one on his. I did another video that showed a little bit closer pictures on hooking this up. If you want to see that, it's over on the website, AmericanPreppingAcademy.com. And again, if you want to get one, use the link down in the description or use Reality Survival. It'll apply the discount after checkout. Save you $50 per unit. So it's a pretty good deal. I think you'll be happy with it, and it's just a little bit of a peace of mind, you know, just a little bit of security that if something does happen, then it's going to help you out. Now, I will note that a lot of people think that CMEs, or a coronal mass ejection, will affect vehicles. That's not actually true. My understanding anyway is, and I've looked into this quite a lot, is that a CME is primarily going to affect long transmission lines and power transformers and those kinds of things. So they will cause a lot of problems, and power production will be down for a long time, and so gas will probably become difficult, you know, to get before too long, just so the production will stop and all that kind of stuff. But your vehicle should still run based off of that. It's really a high altitude nuclear blast that causes an EMP that you have to worry about with vehicles. There would also be problems with getting fuel and all that kind of stuff, but if you've got your basic prep squared away and you've got some fuel stored at home, you know, you should have at least 2 or 3 tanks full of gas, you know, in storage, ready to use. And let's say you get 300 miles per tank. That's, you know, 600 to 900 miles at a minimum that you would get. That's a huge advantage over, you know, 70% of the rest of the population who's not able to drive, right? That gives you, that's a huge force multiplier, and that puts your position, and it puts you in a much stronger position to be able to defend yourself and your family, because there's going to be a lot of chaos if something like that happened. That congressional report, every EMP video has to mention this stat, but the reason it's important is because even though it's a low likelihood event, it's a high, it highly affects society. There's a massive effect from it, and that statistic is that within 2 years, they estimate that after an EMP, that 90% of the population could be killed off. because of a myriad of different reasons, from power production failure and inability to get medicines, heat, not having air conditioning in hot areas, not having heating in cold areas, hypothermia and heat exhaustion, plane crashes falling out of the sky, and I mean there's just like tons of different stuff, tons of different reasons why there could be big problems. And so having an EMP shield just gives you potential for a little bit of an advantage over everybody else. So anyway, that's why I'm showing you this. Hopefully you find it useful. If you want to know more on the details of the whole physics behind it and everything, like I said, check out the website. There's tons of stuff there. And if you can, sign up on the email list there, because that's the only way that I can get in contact with you guys. I won't send you a bunch of spam. I'm just going to send you out updates when I put out new content and post new articles to the site, new lessons and stuff like that to the site. So I'm not going to sell or rent out the email list or anything like that. So sign up if you will, and then that'd be great. Almost forgot to start it up and show you that it actually still runs. So let me start it up real quick. Good to go. So anyway, guys, don't forget to live 6 P's. Proper prior preparation prevents poor performance. Stay safe.